delegations of our members of parliament are being sent to various countries in all directions. I question the usefulness of this and the timing of this. What is it that the MPs and these delegations can do which our well-staffed Foreign Office and ambassadors and high commissioners and our own External Affairs Ministry can't do? First of all, let's take the organization of our External Affairs Ministry. We have a very smart External Affairs Minister at the top. And then there is a Foreign Secretary, and the External Affairs Ministry is kind of organized in a kind of geographical way. You have Secretary West Asia, you have Secretary Europe, you have Secretary United States, that kind of thing, Secretary China and all that. Therefore, each of these divisions, you've got a China division, Europe division, America division, are staffed by another additional secretary and maybe more than one, and the joint secretaries, and then very young, smart IFS officers, under secretary, deputy secretary, director, and all that, each of those divisions. A huge one. Remember, each of the divisions. So what are they doing? They have got to specialize in their geographies, in the diplomatic moves possible, all to our benefit. Okay. And then at the other end, you have the embassies, the ambassador at the top, the high commissioner at the top. And that too is well staffed, including in many cases a defense attaché who will look after the security aspects of the India, the other country, relationship. Sometimes much to do with arms deals and everything, it depends. So you have this whole semi-empire of Foreign Office, External Affairs Office organization. And what they cannot achieve, you are sending an assortment of MPs on some kind of expeditionary force to various countries. That doesn't sound too reasonable. What is the purpose of this? Nowhere so far has the government come with a purpose. These are the reasons why we have. This is what we want to achieve. These are the ordinary questions of a taxpayer, of a citizen. These representatives, MPs, are representatives, our representatives. We send them to Parliament. Therefore, we have the first right to their services. And their services, the primary duties of these Parliament members, have not been something that we can be really very proud of. As I said in a couple of videos earlier, they have been shouting at each other, not utilizing time for legislation, not studying things properly, therefore not really doing the duties that they have to do, contributing to legislation discussions, controlling government by calling it to account in matters of importance, control over finances in the demands for grants of various ministries. These are all guillotined away because there is no time. The guillotine is applied, and sometimes the demands for grants of various ministries are just passed, just like that. So they have a lot of duties to be performed. There are many things on their plate. And so far, it has not been all that satisfactory what they have done now. Never mind that. Now they are going on this expedition in various directions, and they have said, I mean, probably representing all of them or probably individually, they have said, we will not be found wanting when the call of duty comes. That's a quote from one of the MPs. Probably also, in a way, that's what others feel, other MPs feel. We won't be found wanting when the call of duty comes from the country. Good. So that is how it is. These people have not been performing all too well, shouting at each other and wasting legislative time. And now they are on this expedition. It's not clear why, what, to whom are they meeting? Not clear at all. And the timing of it. The fact of the matter is that if you ever wanted to send all this delegation and all that, the best time, in my view, would have been when the brutal attack at Pahalgam took place. There India and Indian tourists were victims. And if you really wanted to wanted to get everybody's attention, that occasion could have been utilized. But we chose something else. We said we will retaliate and things like that, which is okay. That is state policy. Nobody questions that. And then there was retaliation, controlled retaliation, and counter moves. And after all this, the New York Times, based on satellite images, said no big deal. Although both India and Pakistan were saying that they have hammered each other, duped each other, in a big way. No, not much damage has been done on both sides. They had pictures of the damages, which they say not great, not much. They said that was only a report. After that, this kind of thing has gone out of the space. No longer is this occupying any space. What is the reality? And there I come to the second point, the timing of it. And to really show you what the reality is, no better way than just referring to what happened when President Trump did his first official visit to Saudi Arabia. And that is how he did in the first term also. It just happened that the Pope's death meant that he had to make an appearance at the Vatican. But this was the main thing. What happened there? All over, whether it is Saudi Arabia or UAE or Qatar, which all these three he visited, the matter was trade, US dollars. That is the main thing of the US government. And when I say US government, all these things are done by one man, Donald J. Trump. Others are all on ice. The State Department is on ice. And to some extent, yes, Marco Rubio says something, but everything is decided by the president. Everything is decided by, there may be a couple of advisors for him. Steve Witkoff is one. He makes the deals before Trump signs on them or agrees on them. So with Saudi Arabia, billions of dollars. He said 800 billion, but it might go a little further up. And with every country that he visited, it's all about dollars. And then there was a remarkable thing. in Saudi Arabia, where he visited. He shook hands warmly with Ahmad al-Sharaa, president of Syria. Now, only about 3 years ago, Ahmad al-Sharaa, was designated as a terrorist, a designated US designated terrorist who had, I think, a few $1 million of bounty on his head. And there the president of US was shaking hands with him and saying, attractive man, strong past, courageous person. Hope you can take your country forward. He lifted all sanctions in a moment's time, no conditions. You can have a shot at the future, Trump told al-Sharaa. And it was a very warm meeting. And then there was, President Trump himself said that he has consulted Crown Prince Salman as well as the President of Turkey, Erdogan, on this. And both of them had definitely advised Trump to lift sanctions of Syria and give them a chance. That's how it is. That's how terrorism takes place. Steve Witkoff, US President Trump's friend, close friend, buddy, and special envoy of Trump for all countries. That's how people have called him. He negotiated a deal with the Houthis, who we call pirates and all that. Nothing to him. He, that is representing President Trump, he negotiated a deal where the Houthis promised that they will not be harassing US ships. Understand that? The deal was Houthis will not be harassing US ships. There the deal was struck. And even when the ink was just drying up on this, Houthis were sending off missiles to Israel. That's a different thing. So that's how it went. It's transactions all over the place. If you can get a deal, okay, let it go through. Steve Witkoff negotiated a deal with Hamas for the release of Alexander, US citizen. Young man, Alexander, he came out looking pretty okay. So there also, Trump's special envoy negotiated a deal that directly, not at all keeping any of this Israel or anyone in the picture, dealt directly with Hamas and got this young man out of the hostage detention. What does it speak of this idea of terrorism so far as the USA is concerned? Terrorist and terrorism. Well, for USA, the whole idea of terrorism and terrorists and all that label has been thrown out of the window. Just thrown out. The matter then receded. There was no label terrorists and all that. But the talk was prominently about deal making in terms of US dollars. This is the reality so far as US attitude towards various things are concerned. You get the drift. For the USA, terrorism doesn't mean a big thing. Terrorism, okay, but what about the trade? That seems to be the thing. what then are the big things happening all between May 12th and now? Many things are happening. The UK-USA trade deal, big thing. And China telling the UK, don't try to harm us and our supply chains, there will be repercussions. Again about trade. In between, I think I missed out the biggest of deals, the US-China trade deal, tariff deal. That also was negotiated by Steve Witkoff. So right from the 145 brought it down, and it will be brought down further. That's how things are. So it's all about trade, trade, trade. That's the number one. That's the number two. That's the number three agenda. Not only for the United States, but for all of Europe. That's the deal. And then, of course, there was the UK-EU deal, trade deal. Just recently, just yesterday. UK-EU deal, yesterday. So all over the place, what is the main thing that is occupying the minds of all these leaders in the capitals? Trade, trade. So this is the reality and the context. That the Pahalgam terror attack and the other military engagements or skirmishes, which, as I said, the New York Times characterized as a minor damages thing, has already receded into the background. And now these delegations, expeditionary forces going there, that is not the time, that is the wrong timing. They go there after everything is done and people's minds, it's a case, attention span for all these things is limited, are on other things. There is a huge surge of right-wing in UK with Nigel Farage very much breathing down Starmer's neck. They've done very well in the UK local elections. That's a right-wing party, anti-immigrant in a very big way. And the same ideas trumps make Britain great again, that kind of thing. Not exactly that slogan, it's a slightly different slogan. In France, there is a rise of the right. In Germany, there is the rise of the right. That is the scenario. What I'm trying to say is that whatever we have experienced has receded into the background. The style generally for Trump and for the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, is monarchic. And therefore, if you're talking about policies, it is all these individuals who make policy. So that is the way I see this. But then I try to see something there which is what is there to talk about, and I really saw that we are still into some kind of semantics, that is some jugglery of words. We seem to be spinning new words. We say no third party mediation, and then we spin another word, no internationalization, quite a mouthful. No involvement in Kashmir. As one of the well-known opinion writers said regarding this engagement, military engagement. All the others, the world leaders, do not want to involve themselves in the crisis. But the crisis involves them. Why? Because these are nuclear powers. And after this 2 or 3 days of fighting against each other, there was a point which they felt was getting into nuclear exchange territory. At that time, they stepped in. This will be the way it will be even in the future. That is, in 1998, when we and Pakistan, India and Pakistan, became nuclear weapon states, this whole thing, whatever we do in exchanges, when it comes to a certain point, it doesn't concern only India and Pakistan. It concerns the world because of that nuclear. This is obvious because these are weapons of annihilation and not just a matter of territories of countries or disputes between countries or differences between countries. So this will play out even in the future. That is this involvement. Then look at it in another way. The world is involved with us in trade, billions of dollars. We like that, right? We like that. The world is involved with us in trade. We are involved with them in trade. We are involved with them and they are involved with us in various forms. Our expatriates are there, and the Gulf countries, they make a big presence. They send remittances. And these are all examples of involvement, of cooperation, of international, of cooperation between countries. And then the semantics of our country. We pick out this one thing and say, don't get involved, don't get involved. That is very unrealistic. It doesn't make much sense, because you are involved all the time. Hey, what about defense equipment? You are involved. We are buying from USA, we are buying from Russia, we are buying from Israel, we are buying from France. That also is involved and they are involved with us. Therefore, when it comes to a point where any of those people think that this might go into some kind of nuclear exchange, nuclear weapons exchange, they will just step in quietly. And therefore, to use another word which seems to be a favorite with them, no, don't meddle. That is another word that they have used. These are the contributions they have made. There's another strange formulation, strange word that they used. And I myself was a little bit taken aback by that word. No hyphenation. Now leave that poor hyphen. It's a punctuation mark. Leave that aside. Why do you want to go after that word? No hyphenation. Why don't you speak clearly if your idea is clear? Why say no hyphenation? What they probably want to convey, and they should convey if that's the thing that they want to convey, is that India is a very big economic power, law-abiding, leader of the world and so on. And Pakistan is a small power, a rogue state and all that sort of thing. Why don't you say that instead of signaling this code, no hyphenation? That's an exercise is meaningless semantics. That is not clear what the meaning, you're just spelling words. So this kind of thing goes on, and even only 3 days ago, the military spokesman or somebody said, there is no ceasefire Earlier, the Foreign Office had said not a ceasefire, but only a stoppage of fire or something of that kind. Twisted it around, the same thing. Only the stoppage of fire, not ceasefire. Yesterday or day before yesterday, there was another thing, another phrase, semantics. There is only a pause in the exchange. Only a pause. And everybody thought, my God. So the next day I asked, what is that? Pause? You're only pausing. And then the explanation was, there is no expiry date for that pause. So you will have to think, oh, no expiry date for that pause. So the pause can continue. Oh, that's what you mean. That it will continue for a long time. And then what is the meaning? It means a ceasefire. What is that? No, they don't want to admit it is a ceasefire. It is, first of all, what the Foreign Office said, a stoppage of military actions on both sides. Then they said, after some days, it is only a pause. And then they say, no expiry date for the pause. Now, this seems to be the kind of games they play with words. And I think that shows that they have nothing much to do now. Well, that's how I would end it, because there is nothing on record. The government has not come out with clear positions on any of these things except these code words thrown at us. Even a very conservative paper, which normally doesn't cross any line, like the Hindu, said there is still no account given of the losses in this exchange. I am not calling for them, but I am saying that some information on some statement could have been given. Now even that time has passed. To ask the government to do it now seems meaningless. So I say at this moment, again, I really do not know why these delegations are being sent. The money could have been utilized better, and we need the money, and there my point will rest.